This video is my invitation to you to have you join me next Friday for a live naming event for the lambs that were born in April, May 2022. My name is Jennifer Johnson with Whispering Pines Farm. My husband and I raise a beautiful flock of soft Shetland sheep right here in Western New York. And our focus is on producing beautiful wool for our hand spinners. On this channel, you're going to find content about all sorts of stuff related to raising sheep for their wool. There's a really fun playlist, so if you go on my channel, there's a tab called Playlists, and one of them is called Lambing 2021, and it's full of footage of newborn lambs and lamb races, and it's really a really entertaining, lighthearted playlist. But there's also going to be content about farm life and living in the country and just everything that relates to raising sheep for their wool. So this is an invitation to a Facebook Live event. It's going to take place December 9th, 2022 at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. And what it is, if you go to my farm Facebook page, and here's a link right here, there's an event set up for that time and date. And if you click on that event, it'll take you directly to the live feed that I'll be doing. And during that time, we're going to be looking at lambs, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of the story about that particular lamb, and then people will write in, because you can type, you can comment right into the live feed with names that they think would suit for that particular ewe or ram. So every year I'll pick a theme, a naming theme for the lambs. So last year I used characters from Shakespeare plays. So I have a Bianca, I have Ophelia, so all sorts of really beautiful names from Shakespeare plays. In prior years, I've used names of characters from Downton Abbey. I have a Game of Thrones year. I've got a year of NPR commentators, Jane Austen. And 2 years ago, in 2020, I did, all the names were based on activists that were pivotal in getting the 19th Amendment passed here in the United States, which was the amendment that allowed most women in the United States to be able to vote. Prior to that, they couldn't vote. So anyway, that was kind of a heroic year for lamb naming. Now this year, it's going to be names from characters from operas. And I want it to be operas that were like from the 1700s to 1800s, more classical type stuff. Now another thing, just to kind of give you some background, is that I have different color ear tags each year. So in addition to the naming theme that helps me distinguish, they're also going to have different color ear tags depending on the year that they were born. And this year I went with green ear tags. So you'll see that in the naming session if you were able to come. And the ear tag has their specific number, so that's how I can identify who they are. So I'm going to have a couple people that are part of the feed, that they actually did it with me last year, who are going to be writing down the names that I select. So the way it'll work is I'll hold up the lamb, you'll propose some names of characters from operas based on the description, and then I will be the final arbiter. I'll decide what name is used for that lamb, and then a couple of my people out in the audience are going to be writing those names down for me. And I also will have a helper who will be recording the event, and she will be reading me out loud the comments that you write during the feed. So it's going to be really fun. So we put the ear tags on the sheep. The ear tags are actually really important. If you watched my video on the AI, the ear tags are part of a scrapie program technically, so you're required to have them if you sell sheep and move them from one farm to another in order to be able to track them in case a scrapie outbreak happens, which rarely happens. But at any rate, that's the reason we have them. But the other benefit of them is each of them has their own identifier, and so we can, if I don't really know the lamb, let's say I've got 2 black lambs, I'm not quite 100% sure who is who, that number will identify that lamb based on who its sire and dam. Sire is the father and dam is the mother. And I also will use that number when I enter them into the registration database so that I can get a pedigree from them and register them with our breed association. So I do that early in the summer. A lot of farms will tag them right when they're born. When they have very high volume farms will do that. I don't have to do that. I don't like to do it. I feel like there's enough going on at that time to add another element of, I don't know. We just don't like to do it. So we do it early summer after they've had their second booster shot for tetanus, just to make sure that they don't get an infection or anything. And they're still fairly attached to their mother, so you can identify who their mother is. As they get older, they tend to be more independent, and so it'll be a little bit more difficult to tell who they are. The lambs we're going to be naming are 8 to 9 months old. They were born last April, so we're not naming newborn lambs. And I don't name, a lot of farmers will name them early in the year as soon as they're born and stuff. But for me, I've got so much activity in the summer that I really don't have the time to really put towards selecting names, because I do it fairly carefully and deliberately. So, in the summer we're doing things like bringing in hay, managing pastures, getting ready for fiber festivals. This year we did AI, so there was that. So normally I'll wait until the end of the year when things calm down, which I don't know if things ever really calm down, but and then, I can really take my time, and then as soon as I get the names collected, my next step will be to submit them into the registry and get the lambs registered. So this is a lamb. This is Alice Paul's little girl. And the Shetland breed tends to grow very slowly. It actually takes 3 years for them to be full grown. So this is the size of a lamb. I think she probably weighs, 25 pounds. There's a lot of wool on her, so she looks a little bit bigger than she is. And then there's yearlings. They're just ever so slightly bigger. And then they'll grow to full size at year 3. So this year we have 24 ewe lambs to name, so we've got quite a lot of names we need. And I only have 2 rams that I've retained. Every year I keep all of the ewe lambs because we like to evaluate them at 1 year to determine if they are going to be part of our breeding program or if we're going to select them to move on to another farm. I like to come up with names that match with the lamb's personality or appearance or some story about that lamb. So, for example, I've got some lambs that are very flashy with really interesting patterns and markings that could influence the name we come up with. Others are fairly simple in appearance. These are actually my preference. Some are very, very sweet and loving, and others are really shy and just prefer to keep to themselves. And I have a couple little orphans whose mothers have moved on to other farms. And I have a couple also that are quite mischievous. So another thing to keep in mind is that these sheep originate from the Shetland Islands in Scotland. So if you know of any operas set in Scotland, those might be good names to use as well. I can't think of any opera in Scotland, but there must be an opera somewhere out there that would fit the bill. I did a naming event last year, and it was a lot of fun. I held up each lamb and described her, and then the participants would just write in the names for me to select from. And my helper would read the comments so I could focus on the lambs. I really hope you can join me and help with the name selection. I look forward to hearing your ideas, or hope that maybe you can just stop by to watch the fun. Thanks very much.